What if you could actually measure trust? I mean, really put a number on it. Today, we're going to decode the invisible forces that make or break a high stakes conversation. And here's the thing, this isn't about magic, it's about physics. You know the feeling, right? Every sales leader has been there. A deal looks perfect on paper. It's got the right budget, the right timeline, it's a perfect product fit, and then suddenly it just stalls. It goes cold. So, why does that actually happen? Well, the typical explanation is full of these, fuzzy terms. We blame it on bad chemistry or a lack of rapport. But what even are those? They're feelings, not diagnostics. You can't put better chemistry on a performance improvement plan. It's just not actionable. But here's the big shift. What if we stopped treating rapport like magic? What if it was something we could actually measure? What if all those subtle cues of human connection were just as observable, just as trackable as any other KPI? This is exactly where we move from magic to physics. So it turns out it all comes down to 4 core signals. These are the invisible forces that really determine whether a conversation is building connection or, well, creating distance. Let's break them down. First up is turn-taking balance. The best way to think about this is like a game of catch. When it's in sync, the ball is moving back and forth just effortlessly. But when it's out of sync, it's like one person is holding onto the ball the entire time, just lecturing, not conversing. A balanced dialogue feels like a real partnership. The second is what we call response latency. It's just the amount of time between when one person stops talking and the next person starts. In a really great conversation, those gaps are tight. They're natural. But those long, awkward pauses, research shows those silences scream a lack of rapport, and they create this feeling of conversational instability. Okay, next up is linguistic style matching, or LSM. Now, this one is absolutely fascinating. It's our unconscious tendency to start using the same language patterns as the person we're talking to. We match their pronouns, their prepositions, even their sentence structure. When we're in sync, our language just fits together like puzzle pieces. When we're not, it feels like we're speaking 2 different languages. And finally, there's back channeling. These are all those little verbal cues we give to show that we're actually listening. You know, the mm-hms, the rights, the okays. They're like the grease in the conversational gears. When you use them well, they encourage the speaker, they keep the flow going. But when they're not there, the speaker feels like they're just talking into a void. So, okay, we have these 4 signals. But just knowing about them isn't enough, right? The real power, the manager's edge, comes from turning these measurements into a real-world coaching playbook. Let's see how that works. All right, let's start with a really common one. The data shows a pattern of high response latency, long pauses from your rep. The immediate pain point here is that your rep sounds uncertain, and that hesitation, it transfers directly to the prospect, and it just erodes their confidence in the whole solution. Now here's the diagnosis. This isn't just bad chemistry. It's a specific indicator that the rep lacks confidence, and that's probably because of a gap in product knowledge or in their objection handling. The risk here is tangible. The whole deal starts to feel shaky, and the prospect begins to wonder if this is really the right fit for them. And because we have a clear diagnosis, we have a concrete fix. No more vague advice. First, you role-play the most common objections over and over until the responses are totally automatic. Second, you drill the product battle cards for the specific features that prospect is asking about. What you're doing is building muscle memory, not just head knowledge. Okay, let's look at another signal, low linguistic style matching. When the data shows your rep's language isn't meshing with the prospect's, the pain is a total failure to connect. It means they're talking at the prospect, not with them. And hey, if you doubt just how powerful LSM is, just look at the research from relationship science. There was a landmark study that found that couples who naturally matched each other's language styles were way more likely to still be together 3 months later. It's a powerful, unconscious signal of alignment and stability. So, the diagnosis for low LLSM is a breakdown in active listening. Simple as that. Your rep is so focused on their own script, on what they want to say next, that they're completely failing to adapt to the buyer's world. And the risk? This is the #1 cause of getting ghosted. The prospect just disengages because they don't feel heard. The fix here is all about listening, not talking. First, you have to coach true active listening techniques. Second, practice mirroring. And look, this isn't about being a robot and just mimicking them. It's about respectfully adopting the prospect's key phrases to show that you are truly on the same page. Our final signal is an absolute killer of rapport, interruptions, and what we call competitive overlap. When your rep is constantly talking over the prospect, the pain point is immediate. The prospect feels disrespected, they feel unheard, and they just start to shut down. The diagnosis here is crystal clear. The rep is either being way too aggressive, or more likely, they're listening to reply, not to understand. Research links high interruption rates directly to feelings of hostility and awkwardness. It actively destroys any trust that you've managed to build. So how do you fix it? You coach patience. First, you run pacing and pausing drills. You literally force the rep to take a full breath after the prospect finishes speaking. Second, you coach them on the discipline of hearing the entire point before they even start to think about their response. Now, this isn't a one-and-done fix. This is a continuous improvement loop. It's a coaching flywheel. You can apply this exact same process to all the signals we talked about. You measure the signal, you diagnose the pattern, you coach the specific behavior, and then you repeat. And ultimately, this all brings us to the most important point. It is time to stop guessing why deals stall. We now have the tools to coach the underlying behaviors that build trust, not just the words on a script. So I'll leave you with this question. What invisible forces are shaping your team's next call? And what are you going to do to start making them visible?